She found the note at 30,000 feet. It had been folded twice, tucked into the side pocket of her carry-on bag where she kept her boarding pass. She found it when she reached for her headphones and her fingers closed around paper instead. Her name on the outside. His handwriting. Precise, careful, the handwriting of someone who does not do things casually. She unfolded it. 4 words. I will love you always. Belinda sat at 30,000 feet above the Indian Ocean. The lights of the cabin dimmed around her, and read those 4 words 3 times. Then she folded the note back exactly as he had folded it. She put it in her passport. She did not cry. But she pressed her hand flat against her chest for a moment, the way you press against something that is moving too fast and you need it to slow. Below her, Seoul was already gone. Below her, in the departures hall of Incheon Airport, Han Ju-pyo was picking up a call that was about to dismantle 11 years of grief. Welcome to Afro-K Storified, the channel where African and Korean worlds collide and the stories never let you go. If you've been here from part 1, you already know this story has cost you some sleep. If you're new, go back. Start from the beginning. You need to. Subscribe, drop your location in the comments, and let's finish this together. This is part 3. The final chapter. And it does not hold back. I'm in Seoul. I came last night. There are things you need to know. Ju-pyo stood in the departures hall and said nothing for a full 4 seconds. Where? He said finally. She gave him an address. A hotel in Jangyo, quiet, old money, the kind of place that does not advertise itself. I'll come now, he said. Ju-pyo. Her voice. Warm in the way warmth sounds after a long cold. Drive carefully. He drove. Seoul moved past the windows in its early morning state, the streets still half asleep, the Han River catching the first silver of dawn, the city inhaling before the day began. He had driven these roads 10,000 times. He knew every junction, every overpass, every place the city changed character between neighborhoods. He did not see any of it. His mind was running a different film entirely. His mother at 19. A photograph he had memorized, the one that sat in a drawer in his apartment that he had never thrown away and never displayed, because neither felt like the right answer. A woman with his jaw and his eyes and a smile that his had been a copy of before he stopped using it. He had believed she was gone. Funeral that never made complete sense to him, a grief that never fully closed, a coldness he had built around himself like weather insulation because warm things had a history of disappearing. She had not disappeared. She had been taken. He parked outside the hotel at 7:22 a.m. He sat in the car for 90 seconds. Not because he was composing himself, he was past composing. Because he needed one moment, just one, to understand what kind of man he would be when he walked through that door. What he would do with his face. What he would do with his hands. Then he got out. She was waiting in the lobby. She stood when she saw him come through the door. She was 61 years old. Her hair was shorter than the photograph. There were lines at the corners of her eyes and along her jaw that had not been there in the picture he had memorized. She was smaller than he remembered, or he was larger. Both things were probably true. She wore a simple navy coat and she had her hands clasped in front of her and she was looking at him the way you look at someone you have watched from a distance for years and are finally allowed to be close to. He stopped walking. She said his name. Ju-pyo. It sounded heavy in her mouth when she said it. She couldn't believe she was seeing him again after 11 years. He crossed the lobby in 6 steps. He did not speak. He simply held her, the way you hold something you thought was irretrievably lost and have been handed back, and she held him and her hand came up to his face the way hands do when they need to be certain something is real. I'm sorry, she said. Her voice fractured on it. I'm so sorry. I should have found a way to tell you. I should have. Stop, he said. His voice was not cold. It was the opposite of cold. It was the voice of someone who has held a thing for so long that when it finally lifts, the absence of the weight is almost as overwhelming as the weight itself. Just stop. You're here. They stood in the lobby of a quiet hotel in Jangyo at dawn. A man who had been cold for 11 years holding the reason for it. Outside, Seoul continued its morning. Indifferent as always and entirely unaware. But here is what Ju-pyo didn't know yet. What his mother had come back to Seoul to tell him. And when she told him, Everything he thought he understood about this family changed shape entirely. They sat in her room, tea between them, the city outside the window beginning to wake. Han Suyun told him everything. She had been ill for 2 years before she disappeared, a thyroid condition that had required regular medication, hospital visits, long periods of fatigue. It had made her, she said quietly, easy to manage, easy to isolate. A woman who was often unwell and often alone was a woman whose version of events could be questioned. Oh, Baisio had been watching me, she said. I didn't understand it at the time. I thought she was simply efficient. She was your father's secretary, she knew everything. His schedule, his meetings, his preferences. She had been indispensable to him for 2 years before she started being indispensable to the family. She paused. I was suspicious. But I was sick and I was tired, and every time I said something to your father he told me I was overthinking. She isolated you, Jupio said. Systematically, his mother said. My close friends stopped being invited to the house. My relationship with your grandfather became managed. She was always present, always positioned between me and anything I needed. She looked at her hands. And then she found the medical records. You went still. I had been treated for a depressive episode 2 years before your father and I married, she said. One episode. Managed, resolved, not relevant to anything. Obiaseo found the records. She came to me privately, not your father, me, and she told me that if I did not leave quietly, she would make those records public. Not just to the family, to the press, to the business community. She paused. In 2003, Jupio. What that would have done to your father's company, to his reputation, to you. She threatened you into disappearing, he said. She gave me 72 hours, his mother said. She had already prepared the story, a cardiac event, private, to protect the family from public grief. She told me that if I ever contacted you, ever contacted your father, ever surfaced, she would release everything, the records and more. Things she had manufactured. Things that would have been worse. Jupio sat with this. He thought about how long this woman had been running. 11 years in Osaka. A new name. A new life, not because she had wanted one, but because she had been given no other option. He thought about a 19-year-old boy standing at a funeral believing what he had been told. He thought about what Obiaseo had been building in the 11 years since. She wants the chairman's seat, his mother said. Her voice was steady now. The steadiness of someone who has had a long time to understand the thing that was done to them and has decided that understanding is the prerequisite for action. It has always been the chairman's seat. Your grandfather is old. When he steps down, the seat was meant to pass to your father. But your father's health, you know his health. Jupio did. His father, Han Jong-soo Jr., had been managing a heart condition for 4 years. If your father takes the seat and then becomes incapacitated, his mother said, Obiaseo's plan requires 2 things. His shares transferred to her. She has spent 11 years acquiring joint assets and board influence. And the uncles. They support her, Jupio said. Not a question. She has had 11 years to make herself necessary to them, his mother said. 2 of the 3 are already her instruments. They don't know the full extent of what she is. They think they are simply backing a competent woman for a leadership position. She looked at her son. And she has been moving on your grandfather. Slowly. There are things happening to his health, Jupio, that I don't believe are natural. He looked at her. She's poisoning him, he said. I believe so. Slowly. Enough to accelerate his decline and make it look like age. She reached across the table and put her hand over his. She had to remove your girl Belinda early, because Belinda was the kind of person who asks questions and finds answers. She was a threat to the architecture Obiaseo has been building. Jupio thought of Belinda at 30,000 feet, reading a note she didn't know he'd slipped into her bag. We have to stop her, his mother said. Yes, he said. He was already thinking about how. Accra received Belinda the way it always did, with heat and noise and the particular organized chaos of a city that has its own internal logic and will not apologize for it. She took a taxi from Kotoka Airport through the familiar streets, the color and the traffic and the vendors at the roadside and the way the light fell differently here, softer and more amber than Seoul's sharp urban brightness, and felt something in her chest loosen that she hadn't realized was tight. This was home. Broken, complicated, imperfect, irreplaceable home. She went directly to the hospital. Mama Adwoa was in a private room on the 3rd floor. She was propped up against pillows with the television on low and a cup of tea going cold on the bedside table. And when Belinda walked through the door, she looked up and her face did something that made Belinda forget every composed thing she had prepared to say. "My girl," her mother said. That was all. Belinda dropped her bag at the door. She crossed the room. She sat on the edge of the bed and she held her mother, and her mother held her back, and they stayed like that for a long time without speaking because some things cannot be said and don't need to be. When they finally pulled back, both of them were crying in the way that you cry when the tears are relief rather than grief, wet, inelegant, entirely necessary. "You look thin," her mother said, wiping Belinda's face with her thumb the way she had done since Belinda was 4 years old. "I'm the same," Belinda said. "You look thin and you look tired and you look like someone who has been through something significant." Her mother studied her with the particular accuracy of a woman who had been reading her daughter's face for 27 years. "But you also look like someone who found something on the other side of the difficult thing." Belinda laughed. "Small. What?" "Tell me everything," her mother said. So she did. Not the way she'd told Yemi, rapid, emotional, in pieces. This was the full version. The rain in the car window and the mall and the dinner. The river at midnight and takbaki and a man who had told her she was very beautiful with no performance in it. The 100 million and the corridor and the weeks of silence. The proposal on a public pavement and the care account and the deal that had slowly, stubbornly, inconveniently become something more than a deal. Her mother listened to every word. When Belinda finished, Mama Adwoa was quiet for a moment. "The note," she said. "Read it to me." Belinda reached into her passport, unfolded it, looked at the 4 words she had already memorized. "I will love you always." Her mother made the sound again, partly prayer, partly satisfaction. Then she said, "And do you love him?" Belinda refolded the note. She thought about a man on one knee on a public pavement. About a man who waited 2 hours and 40 minutes. About a man who sat on her floor at 1 a.m. with his coat off and his hair loose, telling her the most private thing he knew, his voice careful with the weight of it. "Yes," she said. "Then what are you doing in Accra?" her mother said. Belinda looked at her. "Mama Sejong threatened your safety." "I am in a hospital," her mother said, with the precise dignity of a woman who has spent weeks in a bed and has not lost 1 centimeter of her authority. "I am surrounded by nurses and doctors. I have a private room paid for by your young man's banker. And you are sitting here when you should be standing beside someone who wrote you 4 words that most men cannot manage in a lifetime." She raised an eyebrow. "Go back to Seoul, Belinda?" "Not yet," Belinda said. "Not until it's safe." Her mother looked at her for a long time. "Then while you're here," she said, "sit with me. Tell me about Seoul. Tell me about the food and the river and what it smells like in the morning." So Belinda stayed. For 3 days she sat with her mother. She told her about Takbaki and the Han River at midnight and the jazz bar in Hongdae and the way Seoul looked from the window of a departing flight. The river catching first light, the city becoming a grid and then nothing. Her mother listened with her eyes closed and a small smile and occasionally said, in the way that meant she was collecting the details for later. On the second night, Belinda called Yemi. "How is she?" Yemi asked. "Strong," Belinda said. "Embarrassingly strong. She told me to go back to Seoul." Yemi laughed. "Your mother has always had excellent instincts. How are you?" Pause. The kind of pause that has something inside it. "Actually," Yemi said, "I have news." "What kind of news?" "Sungjin kind of news." Belinda sat up. "Park Sungjin? Jupyo's friend?" "The architect." "He called me," Yemi said, and there was something in her voice that Belinda had not heard before. A lightness, a warmth, the sound of someone who has been surprised by something pleasant and hasn't decided whether to trust it yet. 3 times. I answered the 3rd one. "Yemi. Oh, please give me just this break. I could do with a boyfriend, especially now that Jupyo has taken you from me." But she was smiling. Belinda could hear it. After she hung up, Belinda sat in the dim hospital corridor and smiled at the ceiling. Then she called Jupyo. He answered on the first ring. "How is she?" he said. "Before hello. Before anything." "Strong," Belinda said. "She told me to come back. I think I love your mother." Jupyo heard her chuckle at the other end of the line. "She wants to meet you. Properly. When everything is over." Pause. "Then I need to make sure everything is over," he said. Jupyo. She looked out the hospital window at Accra in the evening, the warm amber light, the sounds of the city, the mangoes in the tree visible from the corridor window. The note. "I found it on the plane." Silence. Then very quietly, "Good. I kept it." "You believe those words to be true, right?" A longer silence clouded the space between them. "Come back," he broke the silence. "When you're ready. But come back." "I'll try," Belinda replied. The words were hard to form. And what was happening in Seoul, what Jupyo had been doing in the days since Belinda left, was the kind of thing that cannot be undone once it begins. The investigation had started the morning after the hotel meeting. Jupyo had 3 assets that Obiaseo did not know he had. His mother's testimony, 11 years of observed behavior, names, dates, and one critical piece of evidence she had carried from Seoul in 2003, a recording. A conversation between Obiaseo and a complicit doctor, made on a recorder that his mother had hidden in her coat the night Obiaseo came to deliver her ultimatum. Analog. Cassette. Transferred to digital in Osaka when the technology became available. 22 years old and entirely intact. His second asset was a private investigator named Choi Dae-won who had worked for the Han Group's legal team for 12 years and whom Jupyo trusted absolutely. His third asset was Belinda's legal analysis, 3 pages of notes she had written in the days before she left, mapping the corporate governance angles, the inheritance law implications, the fraud exposure. She had left them on his kitchen table without saying anything. He had found them the morning after she flew. He had read them 4 times. She had not stopped working even when she was packing to leave. Choi Dae-won's first report came on Thursday. Obiaseo had, over the previous 6 months, added a new kitchen staff member to the compound, a man named Song who had no prior hospitality background and whose CV had been personally vouched for by Obiaseo herself. Song had access to the chairman's private kitchen. Jupyo moved quietly. He had Song's food preparation area tested without warning on a Friday morning. The compound's private physician, Dr. Park, who had been reporting to Jupyo rather than to Sejong for 3 weeks, took the samples personally. The results came back Saturday evening. Trace amounts of a compound that, in small consistent doses over several months, would produce exactly the symptoms Chairman Han had been experiencing: fatigue, dizziness, intermittent confusion. Treatable. Reversible. But deliberate. Jupyo sat with that report for a long time. Then he called Song in. The conversation lasted 20 minutes. Song, who was not, it emerged, a career poisoner but a man who had accepted money and been told the substance was a vitamin supplement, broke completely. He named the intermediary. The intermediary, confronted with Song's signed confession and the test results, named Obiaseo directly. Jupyo had both confessions notarized. He locked them in a safe. He did not tell his grandfather. Not yet. Not until the full picture was assembled and there was no way for Obiaseo to manage the narrative. He did not tell his stepmother that anything had changed. He attended every family dinner, spoke normally, maintained the surface of things with the careful expertise of someone who had spent 11 years managing distance and now had a very specific purpose for it. Obeo, across the table, watched him with her precise eyes and smiled her precise smile and did not know that the house she had built for 11 years was being quietly dismantled from the foundation. If you are watching this and your heart is racing, drop a comment. Justice is coming. Let's go. Subscribe to Afro K Storified if you haven't. We are almost at the end. The Han Group annual gala was held on the last Saturday of October. It had been held on the last Saturday of October for 37 years. It was, in the calendar of the Han family and the broader Seoul business community, a fixed star, the event that opened the fourth quarter, where the company's performance was celebrated, where alliances were confirmed, where the patriarch sat at the center of the room and received the year's accounting with the satisfaction of a man who had built something that outlasted his doubts about it. This year, Obayasu had planned the gala personally. She had managed the guest list, the venue, the catering, the program. She had, Choi Dae-won noted in his report, ensured that Chairman Han's two most loyal board members, the ones who were not in her pocket, had scheduling conflicts that prevented their attendance. She was, Ju Pyo noted, making it easier for him. He called his mother 3 days before. The gala, he said. Saturday. I need you there. Silence on the line. Ju Pyo. I'm aware of what I'm asking, he said. I'm also aware of what it costs. I know you have spent 11 years making yourself invisible, and I am asking you to walk into a room full of people who believed you were dead. He paused. But she needs to see your face. My grandfather needs to see your face. And there is evidence, mother, recordings, confessions, medical reports, that will mean something in that room. But you are the thing that changes everything. You are the thing she cannot explain away. His mother was quiet for a long time. Will Belinda be there also? She asked. I'm going to ask her to come back. He had paused a little before saying it. He didn't know if she would jump at the idea or shy away from it. Another pause. Then I'll come, she said. Belinda's phone rang on Wednesday evening, Accra time. She was sitting with her mother, watching a Nigerian drama on a small television mounted on the hospital wall, and they had been arguing pleasantly about whether the male lead was believable or not when the phone buzzed. She stepped into the corridor. Saturday, Ju Pyo said. The Han Group Gala. I need you here. What's happening Saturday? Belinda was confused. Ju Pyo was being his usual self again, asking for things out of the blue and expecting them to be obeyed. He told her about his mother's recording, Song's confession, the medical results, the notari's statements, and the board positioning. When he finished, Belinda was quiet for a moment. Your mother is going to be there, she said. Yes. The whole thing comes apart in one room. Yes. And you need me because, he said, she used you as leverage. She threatened your mother's life to remove you from the board. That is part of the case. Your presence, your testimony, is part of what cannot be explained away. Pause. And because you are the best lawyer I know. Even when you're working a mall counter. Belinda laughed. He was teasing her again. Then she looked at the corridor wall. At the poster about hand hygiene. At the strip lighting and the tired linoleum floor and the sounds of the hospital doing its quiet nighttime work. She thought about the note in her passport. I'll book the flight, she said. She told her mother that evening. Mama Adwoa listened to the full situation with the gravity it deserved. Then she said, Go. Mama. Belinda. Her mother took her hand. You did not go to law school and intern in New York and survive Marcus and cross the world to sit in a hospital corridor being afraid of one woman in Seoul. Go. Finish it. Then bring that young man here so I can look at him properly. Belinda booked the morning flight. She landed in Seoul on Friday evening. Ju Pyo was at the airport. She walked through arrivals and found him leaning against the car. Same coat, same half-tied hair, same absolute stillness. And the city she had left 2 weeks ago rushed back at her with a force that was almost physical. He did not say anything when he saw her. He just looked at her for a moment, the way he'd looked at her in the fitting room before anything had begun, that recalibrating look, and then he crossed the gap and held her. She let him. She had missed this smell, these hands, this breathe. For exactly one moment, standing in the arrivals hall of Incheon Airport with her bag at her feet and Seoul through the glass doors, she let herself be held entirely. Then she pulled back. Take me somewhere I can change, she said. I have a gala to get ready for. He almost smiled. That shadow of a smile that was all she had ever needed. There's a dress, he said. Of course there is. You haven't seen it. Is it burgundy? He looked at her. Gold? He said with a smirk on his face. The Han Group Gala was held at a venue in Gangnam that had been designed to make people feel the weight of history, high ceilings, warm light, the kind of room that remembered every significant conversation it had ever contained. 400 guests. The Han family at the center table. A stage. A lectern. The chairman's chair, occupied tonight by a man who did not know that someone had been slowly, carefully taking something from him. Obaisio arrived at 7, impeccable as always. A deep plum gown, diamond earrings, the posture of a woman who believes the room belongs to her. She greeted the board members, kissed the cheeks of the right wives, positioned herself in Chairman Han's eye line. She did not see Jupio arrive. She did not see the woman on his arm. Belinda in gold was a different proposition from Belinda in burgundy. The gold caught the light in the room and gave it back doubled, and she wore it the way she wore everything, like she had decided it was hers and the dress had agreed. Her braids were up, pinned with a single clip, and her bright brown eyes moved over the room with the quick, systematic attention of someone who is mapping it. A lawyer in the building. Several people recognized her from the proposal video. She saw them recognize her and she smiled, pleasant, unhurried, the smile she had developed across years of rooms that were not expecting her, and moved through the gala like she had attended it every year. Obaisio saw her at 7:23 p.m. Something moved behind her eyes. Something fast and carefully managed. She crossed the room. "Miss Osei," she said. "I didn't expect to see you tonight." "I imagine not," Belinda said pleasantly. "You've been away." "I was visiting my mother. She sends her regards." Belinda's eyes were very steady. "How is your health, Mrs. Han? You look a little tired." Obayasio's smile did not waver. But her eyes did something, a micro-movement, a tightening. "Perfectly well, thank you," she said. She walked away. Belinda watched her go. Her heart was beating fast. She controlled her breathing with the precision of someone who had argued cases in front of senior partners at 24 years old and had learned that the body could be managed if you gave it clear instructions. She touched Jupio's arm. "Is she here?" she said quietly. "She arrived 20 minutes ago," he said just as quietly. "Side entrance. She's in the garden." Belinda looked at the garden doors. "Whenever you're ready," she said. He looked at her. "Together," he said. "Together." The program began at 8. Chairman Han took the stage to the applause of 400 people who had built careers in the orbit of the company he had built from a Busan shipping dock. He spoke for 12 minutes, slowly, carefully, the way he had been speaking for months as the compound in Song's kitchen did its quiet work. Ju Pyo stood at the edge of the room and watched his grandfather and felt the particular cold anger of someone who has understood the full picture and is holding it very still. Then the chairman stepped down. The evening MC, a Han Group communications director, took the stage to introduce the year's business highlights. The room settled into its attentive gala posture. Drinks in hands. The comfortable murmur of a gathering that believed it knew what kind of evening this was going to be. Ju Pyo walked to the side of the stage. He had arranged this with the MC 3 days ago. A brief additional address. Family business. The MC had not been told the content, only that it was authorized by Ju Pyo as Han CEO and that it would require 2 guests to be brought to the stage at a specific moment. The MC glanced at him. Ju Pyo nodded. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC said, "we have a brief addition to this evening's program. Han Ju Pyo, CEO of Han Logistics International, has a family announcement." The room shifted. These were the moments that galvanized gatherings like this. Family announcements at galas carried a specific charge, could mean anything from a retirement to a succession to a new partnership. Obaisio at the center table straightened slightly. Attentive. Her face arranged in the expression of a woman who is listening with supportive interest. She had not seen what was coming. 11 years of careful architecture. 11 years of patience and positioning and the removal of obstacles. She had not seen it coming because she had been thorough and she had been intelligent and she had, in the end, made the one mistake that intelligent people make when they have been successful for too long. She had stopped believing that anyone was clever enough to find her. Ju Pyo took the stage. He stood at the lectern and looked out at 400 people and his grandfather in the front row and Obaisio at the center table, and he said, 11 years ago my mother died. That is what I was told. That is what my grandfather was told. That is what this family has believed since 2003. He paused. It was not true. The room went quiet. Obaisio's face held its shape. but her hands on the table in front of her, pressed flat. My mother was not dead, Jupyo said. She was coerced. She was threatened with the destruction of her reputation and her family's standing if she did not disappear. She has been living in Osaka for 11 years, because someone in this room decided that removing her was a necessary step toward acquiring what she wanted. Chairman Han was very still. I would like to introduce her, Jupyo said, to anyone in this room who was told she was gone. The side door opened. Han Soo-yeon walked in. She was 61 years old and she walked into that room like someone who had spent 11 years deciding whether she had the right to, and had finally decided that she did. She wore charcoal gray gown. She held her chin level. Her eyes went immediately to the front row, to the old man in the chairman's seat, and stayed there. Chairman Han rose from his chair. He stood. He looked at the woman he had believed was dead for 11 years, and something happened on his face that was too private and too complete to describe except to say that it was real. More real than anything else in the room. Obaisio pushed back her chair. This is, she began. This woman has clearly, Mrs. Han. Belinda's voice. Clear. Carrying. She had moved to the side of the stage during Jupyo's address, and she stood there now, gold dress, braids up, bright brown eyes absolutely steady, with a tablet in her hand. In 2003, Belinda said, you visited Han Soo-yeon at the family compound and delivered an ultimatum. You asked her to disappear or face the public release of medical records you had obtained illegally. You had arranged a false death report with a complicit physician. She looked at the room, then back at Obaisio. We have a recording of that conversation. We have the physician's name. We have his signed statement, obtained last week. We also have the confession of Song Hyun-tae, Belinda continued, who was placed in the chairman's private kitchen 6 months ago and instructed to add a compound to the chairman's food. Song has named the intermediary. The intermediary has named you. She paused. Both confessions are notarized. Both have been filed with the prosecutor's office this morning. The room was completely silent. Obaisio stood. She was still composed. It was extraordinary, actually, the composure of someone who has been this brand of dangerous for this long and has rehearsed even for this. She looked at Chairman Han. Jong-soo, she said. Her voice was warm. It was genuinely warm, which was the most unsettling thing. You know me. You know who I am. 11 years. I have given this family 11 years. You gave this family 11 years of lies, the chairman said. His voice was old and slow, and it carried the weight of a man who has just understood something that reorganizes everything he thought he knew. He was not shouting. He did not need to. I trusted you, he said. When you came to me as a secretary. When you married my son. When I thought Soo-yeon was gone. His jaw worked. You were the person who told me she was gone. Obaisio opened her mouth. She closed it. For the first time in 11 years, there was nothing to say that the room would believe. The doors at the back of the venue opened. 2 officers from the Seoul Metropolitan Police entered. Quietly, efficiently, the way things are done when they have been prearranged and the paperwork is already signed. Obaisio looked at them. She looked at Jupyo. She looked at Belinda. Then she looked at the room, at the 400 faces she had spent 11 years positioning herself in front of. I built this family, she said. Not a plea. Something else. The statement of a woman who believes it even now. Everything you have, the contracts, the board structure, the international partnerships. I built that. I did that. While poisoning the man you were building it for, Jupyo said quietly. She had no answer for that. The officers crossed the room. She did not struggle. Whatever else Obaisio was, she had always understood when a position was lost. She walked with the officers toward the exit with her chin still level and her gown still impeccable, and stopped once at the door. She looked back at Jupyo. He held her gaze. She left. The room exhaled. Chairman Han was already moving, crossing the floor toward the woman who was not dead, who had never been dead, who had walked back into this room after 11 years because her son had asked her to and she had decided it was finally time. Jupyo watched his grandfather reach his mother. He watched the old man take her hands. He did not hear what was said. He did not need to. He turned to find Belinda. She was standing exactly where she had been, tablet still in hand, expression still composed, watching him. He walked to her. "You were extraordinary," he said. "I was a lawyer," she said. For the first time in a long time. She looked at the tablet and then back at him. It felt good. He looked at her face in the light of the room. She looked like herself. Fully. Completely. The version of Belinda Osei that had existed before everything, that had been a plan and a New York internship and 2 London job offers, that had been taken and recovered and rebuilt. She looked like that person plus everything she had survived. "I need to ask you something," he said. "Ask," she said. "If you've been here since the rain in the car window, if you've been with this story from the very beginning, this moment is for you. Drop a comment right now. I want to see you. Like this video. Share it. This is the ending this story deserves." He did not ask her in the gala. He asked his grandfather first. 3 days after the gala, in the quieter compound, smaller staff, no Obiasio, Chairman Han receiving treatment that was already beginning to reverse the effects of 6 months of slow poisoning, Ju Pyo sat with the old man and told him. The chairman listened with his hands folded on the table and his expression that of a man who is considering something very carefully. Then he said, "The young woman at the first dinner." "Yes," Ju Pyo said. "The one who told me she wasn't afraid of us. That one." The chairman made a sound that was the closest thing to a laugh he had managed in months. "She walked into this family's most watched room with a borrowed story and held it for 3 hours, he said. And then she came back and exposed a 20-year conspiracy with a tablet in her hand at a formal gala. He looked at his grandson. "You want my permission to marry her?" "Yes," Ju Pyo said. "You already have it," the chairman said. "You've had it since she looked at me across the dinner table and said, 'Should I be scared of you?' without flinching." He laughed heartily, reliving the memory. "She reminded me of your mother. Seon was like that. Unbothered by rooms." Ju Pyo looked at his grandfather for a long moment. "There is one more thing I need to do first," he said. "Go to Accra," the chairman said as though this was obvious. "Get her mother's blessing. That's how it's done." Jerry, whose full name was Jeremiah Kweku Asantepoku, who had taken 4 years and a credit line and a loan in someone else's name and relocated himself to London, who had then been sent to Seoul by Obiasio with the specific brief of destabilizing Belinda by whatever means available, was arrested in London 11 days after the gala. The charges were substantial. Fraud. Identity theft. Obtaining a loan by deception. The Korean prosecutor's office had submitted an international cooperation request regarding the Seoul incident. And Belinda, from a law office in Accra she had been using as a workspace, had filed a civil suit so detailed and so thoroughly documented that the solicitor handling it told her, admiringly, that he had never seen a case this clean. "I had 4 years to remember every detail," Belinda said. Jerry received 18 months. He served 14. Belinda received the repayment of every cent he had taken, plus interest, by court order. She donated it to the hospital where her mother was being treated. She was in her mother's hospital room when Ju Pyo arrived in Accra. She had not told her mother he was coming, partly because she hadn't been entirely sure he would come, and partly because she had wanted to see her mother's face. He knocked on the door at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. Mama Adwoa looked at him. Then at Belinda. Then back at him. "You're tall," she said. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Sit down," she said. "And explain yourself." He sat. He explained himself. For 40 minutes, with the full and grave attention of a man who understands that some audiences are more important than any boardroom, Han Ju Pyo talked to Mama Adwoa about her daughter. Not about his family or his company or the things he could provide. He talked about who Belinda was, the courage at the car window, the composure at the dinner table, the note he had written that she had kept in her passport, the way she had stood in a gala and dismantled 11 years of someone else's architecture with a tablet and 4 months of accumulated trust. "She is the bravest person I have ever met," he said. "I mean, she does the hard thing even when she's terrified. Every time and without fail." Mama Adwoa listened to all of it. When he finished, she looked at Belinda. "Well," she said. "Mama?" "I like him," she said. Belinda pressed her lips together. I like him considerably, Mama Adwoa said. And I think he should stay for dinner. She looked at Jupyo. The nurse brings food at 6. It is not good food. But you will eat it and you will be grateful. Yes, ma'am, he said. He ate the hospital food at 6 o'clock. He was grateful. He proposed that night. Not in the hospital. Outside, in the car park of all places, under the amber across sky, with the sounds of the city carrying over the fence and the mangoes in the tree visible from the compound wall. No ring yet. He had told her he wanted her to choose it, because she had spent too long having things chosen for her. She said yes before he finished the sentence. I love you, she said, because she had decided, walking out of the gala in gold, tablet in hand, feeling like herself for the first time in 4 years, that she was done waiting to say the right thing at the right time. I should have said it earlier. I love you. He looked at her under the across sky. I know, he said. She laughed. You know? Because you kept the note. I was nervous you wouldn't. His face was serious. That's not. You flew back from Accra to stand in a gala in a gold dress with a tablet full of evidence for a man you were supposedly only pretending to be with. He looked at her steadily. I know. She looked at the sky. I really do love you, she said. He was quiet. Then he replied, I love you more than anything. And the corner of his mouth moved. She had not seen him smile like that before. She decided she was going to make him do it as often as possible for the rest of her life. The wedding was in spring. Seoul in spring is a specific kind of beautiful. Cherry blossoms along every river walk, the Han pink-edged in the mornings, the city softer and more forgiving than it is in any other season. They married on a Saturday in April at a venue in Mapo that had floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river, and the guest list was exactly the size it needed to be. No performance, no business calculation, just the people who had earned the right to be there. Chairman Han sat in the front row with Han Soo-yeon beside him. He had spent 3 weeks after the gala, having conversations with his first daughter-in-law that nobody outside those rooms would ever fully know the content of. What was known was that she had been restored, formally, legally, completely, to the family record. Her death certificate had been nullified. She was alive. She had always been alive. Yemi was Belinda's bridesmaid. Park Sung-jin was Ju Pyo's best man. These two facts had caused a significant amount of additional logistical correspondence over the preceding 4 months, which Belinda found deeply amusing and refused to comment on publicly. Mama Adwoa was there. She had been transferred 1 month before the wedding to a specialist facility in Singapore, the best in the region for her condition, and the treatment that Seoul's finest had designed for her was working. She was not fully well. But she was better than she had been in 2 years, and she was present, and she sat in the front row in a deep yellow dress and watched her daughter walk down the aisle and did not try to contain what was on her face. She did not need to. Belinda wore white. Simple, structural, a train that moved behind her the way good things move, without effort, naturally because it was designed to. Her braids were down. Her bright brown eyes, when she saw Ju Pyo waiting at the end of the aisle, did something that needed no description. He was wearing his hair fully down for the occasion. She had asked him to. He had not argued. The honeymoon was in Jeju Island. 4 days on the coast, the sea gray-green and vast, the mornings cold and clean and entirely theirs. On the second afternoon, they walked along a coastal path above the water. The wind came off the sea and moved her braids and his loosened hair simultaneously, and she thought, this is the kind of moment that does not announce itself. It just arrives and you have to be paying attention or it passes. She was paying attention. She stopped walking. He turned. Looked at her, that reading something look, the one she had learned to read back. She stepped toward him. He was already close, the way he was always already close when she moved toward him. She kissed him. Not briefly. Not the beginning of something. The whole of something, unhurried, certain, with the specific quality of a kiss between people who have been through enough together that nothing about the moment requires performance. The sea moved below them. The wind continued. When they pulled back, he looked at her in the Jeju afternoon light with his hair loose around his jaw and his dark eyes holding that thing she had no clean word for but had stopped needing one. Come on, she said. Where? He said. Anywhere, she said. Keep up. She walked ahead. He followed. He always would. Belinda Osei returned to law. She joined a Seoul firm, international contracts, cross-border disputes, as a senior associate, on the strength of a recommendation from Chairman Han and a personal reference from the Han Group's legal team, and the work she had done in the months before and during the gala was circulated in certain circles as an example of exceptional legal analysis under extraordinary circumstances. She was, within a year, known. Within 2, she was someone younger lawyers called when they needed to understand how to walk into a room that was not expecting them and hold it. She was good at explaining that. And that right there, is where this story ends. A woman who came to Seoul with nothing, who ran through the rain and knocked on a window and refused to be small, who built herself back piece by piece and found something she wasn't looking for and was brave enough to keep it. A man who had been cold for 11 years because warmth had been taken from him, who waited 2 hours and 40 minutes, who wrote 4 words on a folded piece of paper and put them in a bag, who learned, very slowly and with considerable difficulty and absolutely genuinely, how to be warm again. A mother in a hospital in Singapore getting better. A grandmother in a front row in a yellow dress, not containing anything. A best friend and an architect finding their own way towards something neither of them has named yet. Spring in Seoul. Cherry blossoms on the Han River. A kiss on a coastal path above a gray-green sea. A beginning dressed as an ending. If this story gave you something, if you've been here from the rain and the car window all the way to Jeju Island, then like this video, share it, and subscribe to Afro-K Storified so you never miss what comes next. Drop a comment below. What was the moment that got you? I want to know every single one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying. This story was always for you.